Hello and welcome once again to Entirely English. Today we are doing the second part of idioms beginning with T that originated in the Royal Navy but are still commonly used today. We're going to get straight into it, and the first one is three sheets to the wind. Now I could have put this under S, sheets to the wind, because we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 sheets to the wind, but 3 is the most common. Let's begin by looking at the word sheet. Now, some annoying people, little nerds, might tell you,
Well, actually, the sheet refers to the rope that holds the sail. It's not the sail itself. It's the rope that ties it to the mast, that the sailors pull to adjust it. It's not the sail. It's not the sheet like the sheet on your bed. You're so silly.
but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. The idea is the same. You have a sail flapping about out of control. The ropes have become loose. Maybe a new recruit hasn't done their job properly, or the rope is broken. The sheet, if this person is right. Anyway, the sheet is flapping around. And if one sail is flapping around, it causes a problem. 2, and we're going to start losing control. 3 sheets to the wind means the ship is completely out of control. It's not going anywhere that you want it to go. The sheets are flapping, pulling the boat in different directions. And there is a 4 sheets to the wind. And these were used to refer to somebody who's drunk, basically. 1 sheet to the wind is pretty merry. Hey, hi, hey, I love you all. That sort of, really merry drunk. 2 sheets to the wind would be stumbling, maybe when you get to the aggressive mode. Are you looking at me? Hey. 3 sheets to the wind is staggering, falling over, being loud, telling everybody, I love you, you're my best friend. So 3 sheets to the wind was the one that's most commonly used. We say the captain's 3 sheets to the wind. He's had too much rum and he's out of control. For your information, 4 sheets to the wind is just lying face down in the gutter, completely out of it. So we use 3 sheets to the wind these days when we talk about somebody who is completely drunk. New Year is coming, and I guess many of us will be 3 sheets to the wind then. Do you remember the last time you were 3 sheets to the wind? Or 1 or 2 or 4? Pop them in the comments. We could all do with a good laugh. Our next one is to take up the slack. Take up the slack. Do you remember in idioms P, we had to pull your weight or pull your own weight? When the ship came into dock, the cargo had to be lifted out of the ship, moved across and put down on the dock so it could be distributed where it needed to go. Right? And the people would be pulling on a rope. The rope went up over a pulley down into the cargo hold. So if somebody wasn't doing their share, they weren't pulling their weight. And the other people had to take up the slack. They would have to fill in for him. Slack is like, if you imagine a rope is taut and then there's a dip in it. That's the slack. If you're pulling rope, the bit of rope behind you that's on the floor, that's the slack. So take up the slack. Maybe people are pulling on that rope. Everybody's pulling their own weight, but it's too heavy. Somebody else comes and takes up the slack. They will pick up that dangling piece of rope and add their weight to the pull. So to take up the slack was to fill in for what was missing, and we use it that way today. We say we're short-staffed, lots of people are off with this coronavirus damn thing, so we need all of you to take up the slack. So people are going to have to work harder, put in more effort to take up the slack. Next we're looking at tide over. This is an interesting phrase because we talked about safe harbors before. You'll find that a lot of idioms connect to other idioms because it's the same environment, it's the ship. The tide is the movement of the sea. So if you imagine there's the beach And when the sea is here, you have a low tide, and as the water gets deeper, you go to the high tide. I'm not talking about the waves, but the actual depth of the water increases and decreases over the day. That's the tide, and it's the movement of the sea. Sometimes a ship would have problems, maybe the low tide, they couldn't sail, so they'd go somewhere and wait. They'd drop anchor and wait for the tide to change, to become deeper so they could sail. So when they were waiting, they were tiding over, waiting for the tide to change. And these days we use it in a similar fashion. You might say, like, I've spent all of my money this month and there's still a week to go before payday. Could you lend me £10 to tide me over, to get me through this period of time until I'm okay again? Right? To tide over, to survive in some way. The next is tip of the iceberg. Pretty much everybody is familiar with the concept of icebergs and ships because of the damn Titanic. But you go back hundreds of years and the explorers were finding different ways to go to the New World, to find new countries, and some of them would go northward into the icy waters of the Atlantic. And it became common knowledge that icebergs, only a third of them is above the water, 2/3 is below the water, and it doesn't go straight down, it might come out. So while you think the iceberg is there, if you sail too close to it, bang, you'll rip out the bottom of your ship. So they always talked about the tip of the iceberg. Be careful at the tip of the iceberg because it's deceptive. It doesn't give us all of the information. And obviously sailors found this out before Army or anybody else because they were exploring in those regions. And we use it today to talk about things which are hidden. We say the president has promised to solve this problem, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's other problems, and what he does might actually cause new problems. It's the tip of the iceberg. We don't know all of the situation. We're only seeing one part of it. The next one we're going to do is to tar with the same brush. Tar with the same brush. We have discussed before, again, if you go back to Idioms D, where there was the devil to pay. The devil being that long seam at the bottom of the ship, and paying was painting it with tar. Now, lots of the interior structure of the ship was constantly being painted with tar to keep the water out. And the thing with tar is you can use it on a brush, paint it, it's very stiff, very hard. But if you leave that brush, the tar on it is going to become dry and hard. And without destroying the brush, there's no way to soften it. So if you then try to use that brush to tar something else, you're going to make a mess of it. So you don't want to tar something with the same brush unless you're constantly doing it in the Navy. And we use this phrase nowadays to say, I don't want to tar these people all with the same brush, but, and it means to categorize people in one group, and it's wrong. It's wrong to tar people with the same brush. You say, this person is an idiot, therefore his brother must be an idiot. No, you're tarring them with the same brush. You can't presume one thing just because the other thing is true. So we often use it with the negative. People saying, don't tar them with the same brush. You know, just because Putin's a maniac doesn't mean all Russians are maniacs. Don't tar them all with the same brush because one guy is crazy. And the last one we're going to do for today is time and tide. The actual whole idiom, or proverb even, is time and tide wait for no man. So time moves on. It always goes. You might say you wish you could stop time, but it doesn't stop. It keeps going. And it's the same with the tide. If you're a captain of a ship, you need to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's when there is high tide. You're going to have enough water, enough clearance under the ship to sail your boat out. You can't say, oh, I'll go at 6:30 because the tide is not going to wait for you. It moves of its own accord. I saw on QI the other week, I don't know if you know this show, QI stands for quite interesting. They talk about quite interesting facts. Unfortunately, a lot of their facts are rubbish. And the presenter, who is Danish, said that time and tide actually comes from the word tid, I think it was, which is the Dutch word for time. So she was saying that it actually means time and time waits for no man. That makes no sense. It's time and tide. Time doesn't stop, the tide doesn't stop. These things are constantly moving. And we use this phrase when we're trying to emphasize to somebody that there is no point in waiting. Things have to be done at specific times. We've got to get this product launched on Monday because time and tide wait for no man. If we don't get it launched on Monday, our competitors are going to beat us to it. All right. I'm going to leave you with a little question, actually. I had this idea of one idiom as coming from the Navy, but I couldn't find any supporting evidence. In fact, I couldn't find anything relating to the history of it. What do you think? And it's to throw caution to the wind. I think after all these videos, you probably can guess what my idea is. What do you think? Is it a naval one, or does it come from something else? It's a little challenge for you there. Okay, so yeah, leave it in the comments if you have any thoughts, any other ideas, any other idioms beginning with T that you think I might have missed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And next we have idioms beginning with U. So I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye now.